Today I'm going to show you guys how to do an Fsport lower airbox mod on your 2006-2013 IS350. The Fsport lower airbox mod is basically going to replace this lower airbox with a one that's got a hole in the side, like the Fsport intake does, like a hole that goes right here. Basically just makes it louder. I make a little bit more airflow through there, but mostly it's just to make it sound nicer. So the first thing you need to do is undo these little connectors here and the ones on the edge of this box so you can pop the top off of this airbox. As you can see, I've already got a custom air intake tube. There's another video on that. It's a good idea to unplug this MAF sensor just so you don't pull the wire, and then unplug it from its little slot that it goes in there. But then you're just going to pop these clips off the corners and take this upper airbox off. With that off, you'll have access to your air filter. Good time to change that. So next you need to take out this lower airbox. So you're just going to remove that right there and this one right here. I think those are, there's probably one over here too. I think those are 10mm. You're also going to have to undo this factory air snorkel, which is these two bolts here, because that clips in there. This is why this factory airbox is such a good design, because this sucks true cold air into here, and this box keeps everything so it creates suction through the cold air snorkel, which makes it better than any of your cold air intakes. Alright, with all that out, you can just lift this straight up. It's got a little peg that goes into that hole there to kind of isolate it, but so you go ahead and now you have this out and we can start to modify this. The main mod is going to be to cut a big hole in this side, the side that faces the headlight, and that's where your sound's going to come from. And then you can also remove all these ribbing in here to make it a little bit smoother inside. You can use that using a Dremel or a pair of pliers or something. That's not necessary for the sound, but probably will help with the flow. So I was going to use a Dremel, but this seems like it's pretty easy. You can just grab a pair of pliers and just twist this, and it pops off right at the connections there, which is really easy. You should just go ahead and do that, and you can remove all these. You don't need any power tools. Okay, so with all that popped out, which is actually super easy, that only took about 15 minutes with some pliers. It pulled a ton of plastic out of it, but that's a lot more smoothed up. You can also hit that with some sandpaper or a Dremel at this point to smooth it out even more. This next part, we're going to drill our hole for intake sound. So that's going to go on this side. Basically, from what I've seen, the bigger you make the hole, the louder it is. So just whatever size hole you feel comfortable cutting over here, you can compare that to the size on the Fsport, which is probably about that big. It probably comes from the bottom up to there. I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger just because I want a good sound. Just make sure it's lined up right, so this hole goes towards the snorkel, and then I'm going to drill 4 holes here and then cut out the plastic in between. Alright, holes cut. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out that big hole. So I went ahead and drilled some more holes. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now and then smooth out the edges. Alright, so this is the general hole. You can take some sandpaper, or again a little Dremel tool if you got one, and sand that out. I still am going to touch up all this with a Dremel, but the next step is basically just mount it back. This is pretty much done. You also see this bottom side of this air intake. With the Fsport airbox and the RR Racing intake, which is the same style as this one, they recommend that you cut this out. So you can cut out this filter if you want a little bit more airflow. This is just like an extra screen, I guess, in case this one was to fail, but you don't really need this. I'm going to attempt to cut this out with a razor blade, see if we can get that off. Yeah, this is super easy to cut through. It just, sharp razor blade will sink right through, so we're going to go ahead and remove this. Alright, this is like some layers of matting and insulation and plastic, some charcoal in there. I assume that's probably to stop, I guess, water coming up into the intake, but definitely would keep it quiet, so removing that will definitely help with sound, probably help with horsepower too. Alright, there it is, all mounted up. Got a hole right behind the headlight. There are some studies online that show this does drop the air temp a tiny bit, but really this is not just for sound. So put your filter back in, put your AirBox top back on, plug everything in, and you are all set. Alright, so overall that took about 30 minutes. the sound's going to be a lot nicer. This is how to do a Fsport lower airbox mod on your Lexus IS350. This will save you about 180 bucks off of buying an Fsport box and should have the exact same performance. It just takes about 30 minutes. Thanks for watching.